Hi everybody, I hope you're having a great weekend. Let me just turn this way. And I actually am feeling a little healthier than usual, and I wanted to tell you guys a couple things. So, first of all, there will probably be at 1:30 Eastern today a live chat with David, who is a friend of mine for many, many years concerning the Israeli election. So, tune in for that. I want to speak about a couple issues that I was talking about this weekend with a friend, and they concern this whole notion that Ocasio-Cortez is taking the country by storm and identity politics and everything. So we had this discussion yesterday. I was eating dinner at his house with him and his wife and kids, and they were kind of first of all, his wife was oblivious to what identity politics was, so we kind of had to go through a refresher on it, and really it was kind of shocking to her. And a lot of people, you have to remember, aren't really conscious of what's going on with regard to this in academia and now in corporate America and in the educational system, the K to 12 educational system. They really don't think they don't know that it's so effective and so widespread. So it goes to this thinking that I was actually I was actually going through in my mind some ideas earlier that evening. That would be Friday evening, that I thought were of the same subject, which is, if identity politics are that bad, if they're that big of an issue, then what exactly can be done to overcome it? And one of the problems is that there is no single American identity. We're called the melting pot, or used to be at least, but in reality, in the U.S., you have the perfect right to identify as whoever you want to be. There's people who they're like 12th generation Irish here from Boston or Chicago or whatever, and they still call themselves Irish American. So it goes without saying, people can identify as African American, that can identify as Asian American, whatever you want. So the alternative in my mind is that if you want to create an identity that's truly American, you can't build it around people that you would associate with who you don't know. That's kind of that would have to be secondary as opposed to the people that you do know. So people that are your community and who you identify with and create your American identity with would be, people that you actually do have a good relationship with. If you're a gamer and you invite people over to your house and you play video games with them, if you're on a hockey team with a bunch of people, if you hang out with people at work, I for example, I'm part of a pretty small group of people, but we're all professionals in the same industry, and we do sometimes hang out together and talk and message each other if we haven't been in touch for a while. That's how you create a real community identity that's beyond just identity politics. And then, of course, it doesn't mean that you can't go to your church, you can't go to your let's say, if you're a Hindu, an ashram or a synagogue or a mosque or whatever. But the fact is that if you make your identity all about your DNA and your religion and the other things that are innate about you, then sure, there won't be any common American identity. You'll pretty much begin to create an own island around yourself, and you won't be able um, to really relate to people that are different from you. And I'd have to say that there's plenty of people that fits for. There's people who live in parts of the city or parts of the areas of the state where there's not a lot of people around that don't act or look like them, or aren't part of the same ethnic or religious group. You can go down to parts of Texas where the majority of people are, German descent. That's just the way it is. So that's fine. I mean, I don't think people should go out of their way to be diverse or whatever. But you have to make a decision. A couple years ago, I remember there was this article in the New York Times, where a parent was saying, I have to teach my children not to be friends with white people. And I thought that was ridiculous. If you're taking your kids to, let's say, jujitsu class, or taking your kids for some sort of scouts lodge or whatever the hell they call a troop. I guess it's a troop. I never really got into. I think I was in Tiger Scouts for like 4 months or something. But let's say you're taking your kids to one of those groups, and they're not able to relate to the other kids there because of something you said. Well, you're actually hampering their ability to really build themselves into an independent person. Okay, the people can freely associate with whoever they want. If it so happens that they end up identifying with only other white people, or only other black people, or Jews or whatever, it might be because of a certain certain way that jibes with them. Some people, they end up thinking, it's better for me to find something more cohesive or something consistent with my heritage. Well, if that's the way people decide to live their life, that's fine. But if in order to create an American identity, you have to accept that the people that you interact with might actually be, that might actually be your community, for better or worse. And eventually it might not be, those communities are not necessarily as permanent as it used to be back in the past. Remember, back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, there were ethnic enclaves in parts of the country. Like here we had Collinwood City was a massive Italian community here. And there was also a lot of, I think, Slovaks and a number of other Eastern Europeans here. Now, that's kind of moved further east, but those communities still exist. People still know each other. People still go to the same churches over there, but the people don't behave like, if you're not part of the community, you're some sort of ghoulish piece of crap. That's the type of healthy identity that I think exists. Obviously there's probably a few people that are complete jerks, but I think I remember also from the same time as that New York Times article came out, Rob Schneider put a tweet out and said that if you go out and talk to your neighbors and just have a casual conversation with them, the world isn't as divided as we think it is. So that's a few thoughts of mine. Again, tune in at 1:30 today. This is going to be about Israeli elections. Then we're probably going to have later in the evening something with Sun Fayang about that would be Brexit and a number of other world issues, world current affairs issues. So that's it. Please like, share, subscribe. Also subscribe to me on BitChute, as well as on Gab and Minds, ObnoxiouScope as well if you want. And I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great Sunday morning.